Hey friends, you may have heard that Mercury retrograde was over yesterday, but if you've been paying attention, you may have also noticed that it doesn't feel like there's been a big shift. So let's talk. You may have been feeling like your Mercury experiences haven't been especially speedy or effortless in the last few days. We're talking about communication and local travel, getting to appointments on time, or getting to appointments at all. This is because when Mercury turns direct or retrograde, it's in a state we call stationing. In other words, it's standing pretty much still from our point of view here on Earth. At the stations, Mercury will be at the same degree for a few days, so getting free from that retrograde energy doesn't really happen in the way that you might think, like you're watching the clock for that specific minute when Mercury is suddenly direct and Mercury retrograde is suddenly over. At Mercury's station direct for this current cycle, Mercury's been at the same degree, 16 degrees Gemini, since June 18th, and it won't move into the next degree until June 27th. That's over a week, with Mercury sitting still at that 1 degree. So it's only after June 22nd that you're going to notice Mercury's energy start to really shift. It's all about the speed here, and these times when Mercury is stationing is as slow as Mercury gets. Once Mercury starts to pick up speed, all things Mercury will start to pick up speed too, and this is things like communication, commerce, and travel plans. But here's the thing, Mercury's moving back into one more pass of a square with Neptune as we speak, with its last peak on July 6th. Whenever Mercury's in a strong aspect to Neptune, my non-astro friends text me and ask me if Mercury's retrograde. This is because it kind of feels like Mercury retrograde under this aspect. Communication breaks down. We might be misunderstood, or we feel we're misunderstood, or we misunderstand important messages from others. Emails get lost, and important communications don't make their way to their destination. All squares require work on our part, and this one is especially difficult because these two planets in the signs they're in have such different agendas. Mercury in Gemini steers the mind in a logical direction and might have an inclination to gather data and information that we might describe as objective facts. You may have been watching a lot of YouTube or surfing the internet a lot while Mercury's been in Gemini, maybe more than usual. Mercury in Gemini is a little bit like that old school news reporter who's just trying to get the scoop. Neptune in Pisces, on the other hand, says, what are the facts anyway but just illusions based on your frame of reference? And at the end, everything is an illusion anyway, so why bother with facts at all? Surrender your mind and come with me on a fantastical journey or enchanting spiritual experience instead. For this reason, Mercury in Gemini square Neptune in Pisces can be wonderful for certain activities, like fantasy writing, for instance, as we're blending that science nerd part of ourselves with the fantastic utopian visionary part. So if you're working on that kind of project, well, you're in luck right now, and you should totally make the most of this opportunity and this time period. But if you've been on the hunt for some clarity, and these last few weeks haven't really helped, and in fact, the so-called facts you thought you uncovered have turned out to be not quite as objective as you first thought, I'm afraid you're going to have to wade through this energy just a bit longer. Since Neptune's in a later degree of Pisces, right now it's at 23 degrees Pisces, you'll need to wait for Mercury to move past that degree. But here's the kicker. Mercury's going to move into Cancer next on July 12th, right after that, which puts Mercury in a more subjective state, where what we think is tied to our subjective and feeling states. So it's not exactly the antidote to the current Mercury-Neptune aspect. All this is to say that if we do get a window into clarity or objectivity at all, it could happen when Mercury is in those last couple of degrees of Gemini and it's started to separate from the square with Neptune, which will be around July 10th and 11th. But in my book, Mercury's still a little too close to Neptune then, and being in the last degree of a sign comes with its own set of qualities and issues, which we could dive into at another time. So what's my advice? Go with the astro flow, as always, which says seek out the data you're looking for, but activate your intuitive process at the same time. If you need clarity on something, well, do your best to find the facts, spend that time searching the internet, asking friends, making calls, whatever you need to do to gather the information you don't have. But then take a step back and check in with your feelings. Watch for synchronicities, signs, or symbols that might point you in one direction or another. Pay attention to images or messages from your dreams. If you're stuck trying to figure something out, stop thinking for a minute and meditate for an hour, or take a nap, or go for a swim. In other words, turn off your mind and zone out. And when you tune back in, that message or that answer you're looking for might just pop right to the surface of consciousness. Well, I hope you've enjoyed today's Astro message about fine-tuning your Mercury experience this week under these conditions. If you like these videos and you'd like me to do more of them, please take a second to hit that like button. That'll really help me out. And head over to Astrology University for your Astro education fix. Registration opens July 13th for our next live cohort in our 4-year program, which starts up in mid-August. And we've got a great webinar coming up this weekend with Mark Jones on oppositions. And then next weekend, I'll be diving into Mercury as the trickster archetype as we explore the charts of people who've been involved in some crazy hoaxes and parodies. So I hope to see some of you there. And until next time, take good care.